It was just another call, a drip under the sink, nothing to write home about. 60 years old and living solo in my Upper West Side brownstone, life had settled into a predictable rhythm, the kind where desire was a dusty relic in the attic of my mind. Then Ethan walked through my door that Wednesday afternoon, young, built like a brick wall, with this nervous energy that crackled in the air, and suddenly, something inside me, long dormant, decided to wake up. What started as a simple fix turned into a slow burn, a dangerous game neither of us planned. Those professional house calls morphed into something else entirely, charged with a tension that hummed beneath the surface. Lines blurred, needs twisted into something darker, something I hadn't even known existed within me. Obsession? Maybe. It wasn't in the script, but this unexpected jolt had ripped open a seam in my carefully constructed life, and the raw feeling pouring out was impossible to ignore. For days, that leaky faucet had been a steady metronome of neglect, each drop echoing the quiet decay of my surroundings. Home improvements, once a passion, now seemed pointless, like decorating an empty stage. The apartment, cavernous after the divorce, whispered with ghosts in every room, memories I tried to outrun. The kitchen, once the heart of family chaos, had become a shrine to quiet disrepair, mirroring my own state. So when the drip became a persistent stream, I did something I hadn't in ages. I called for help. Ethan, the name on the Handyman service website, meant nothing to me, just someone to stop the water torture. I pictured a grizzled veteran, maybe a bit gruff, definitely efficient. But when I opened the door that chilly Wednesday, I was face to face with a man in his 20s. Ethan stood there, towering over me, a toolbox in hand, a simple gray t-shirt stretched tight across his chest, hinting at muscles beneath. A nervous smile played on his lips, not quite reaching his eyes, but there was a pull, an immediate, undeniable current that snagged my attention. "Hi, I'm here to check out the sink," he said, his voice a low rumble that vibrated in the small entryway. My heart did this absurd little skip, a teenage flutter in a 60-year-old chest. Ridiculous. Sparks were supposed to be ancient history, relics of a younger self, yet there it was, a flicker in the darkness, something I hadn't felt in decades. "Come in," I managed, stepping back to let him pass. I watched him move through the apartment, his eyes taking in the space, a quiet assessment. In the kitchen, he went straight to work, kneeling by the sink, his hands moving with a practiced grace over the pipes. I found myself rooted to the spot, unable to look away. Leaning against the kitchen island, pretending to rearrange a vase of flowers, my focus was laser-locked on him. It wasn't just his looks, though Ethan was undeniably handsome, that rugged, effortless kind of attractive that stopped you in your tracks. It was something else, an energy he brought into the room, a vitality that punched through the suffocating silence that had become my life soundtrack. A warmth radiated from him, something I hadn't felt in so long. For a beat too long, I caught myself leaning against the counter, watching him too intently. I adjusted my robe, a silk thing I'd never considered provocative until this moment, and straightened up, trying to shake off the ridiculous thoughts that were starting to bloom in my mind. Ethan looked up from the sink, catching my eye. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, his gaze darting over me, then snapping back to the pipes, a flush rising on his cheeks. A tiny thrill shot through me at his reaction. Innocent enough, but something was definitely stirring, something I had buried so deep for so long. Desire. I moved closer, drawn in like metal to a magnet. "Everything okay down there?" I asked, my voice softer than I intended. He nodded, not looking up. "Yeah, small leak. Should be fixed in a few minutes." Impulse took over. I reached out, my fingers brushing his shoulder, a light squeeze. His body tensed under my touch, and that jolt of power, knowing I had that effect on him, was intoxicating. A feeling I hadn't tasted in years, and suddenly I was starving for it. "You're really strong," I murmured, my voice taking on a breathier edge. He finally looked up, startled, the flush on his face deepening. Thanks." I smiled, a slow, knowing smile. The tension in the small kitchen was a live wire humming between us, unspoken but undeniable. He shifted uncomfortably, trying to maintain that professional mask, but the tremor in his hands as he tightened a bolt under the sink betrayed him. I took another step closer, leaning over the counter, my eyes fixed on his every move. He stood, wiping his hands on a rag, pointedly avoiding my gaze now, trying to regain control. "Need any help?" I asked, knowing full well he didn't. He shook his head quickly, focusing on packing his tools, his hands still betraying him with a slight shake. I reached out again, this time letting my fingers graze his arm, feeling the heat of his skin. He froze. The internal battle played out in his eyes, a flicker of want warring with something else, something like caution or maybe fear. He was younger. I was a woman who should know better, but in that moment, none of it mattered. My hand lingered on his arm, the tension crackling like static. He looked at me, breath shallow, eyes wide and uncertain. For a heartbeat, I thought he might lean in, close the space between us. But then he stepped back, breaking the spell. "Ma'am," he stammered, his voice shaky. "I'm just here to fix the sink." I smiled softly, amused by his fluster. "Are you sure there's nothing else that needs fixing?" My voice was a playful tease now. He looked like he wanted to bolt. Hands trembling, he gathered the last of his tools, struggling to hold on to his composure. I closed the distance, my lips inches from his. "There's something else you could take care of for me," I whispered, my voice low and suggestive. He just stared, frozen. I leaned in, feigning a kiss, but before I could, he recoiled, hands up as if to ward me off. "I can't," he said, shaking his head. "I really can't." A flicker of disappointment, but I knew he wasn't giving in, not yet. He practically bolted from the apartment, leaving me standing there alone in the kitchen again. But there was something in his hurried exit, not just awkwardness, but a raw, unresolved tension hanging in the air. He'd said no, but it wasn't a rejection. It was a confession. He didn't trust himself to say yes. The days that followed were a strange cocktail of anticipation and frustration. Ethan occupied my thoughts, that hesitation in his eyes, the way his gaze lingered just a fraction too long. Years since I'd felt anything, and now this young man had ignited a wildfire in the dry brush of my soul. I didn't expect to hear from him again, assumed he'd lectured himself, sworn off any repeat performance. But then, a week later, the phone rang. Unknown number. When I answered, it was him. "Hi, this is Ethan, the plumber, just calling to check if everything's okay with the sink. Did the fix hold up?" His voice was polite, professional, but I caught the tremor beneath the surface. He was nervous, and that, for some reason, thrilled me more than it should. "Then," I purred, trying to keep my tone casual, though my pulse was doing a marathon in my chest. "Funny you should ask. The sink's perfect, but there's another issue, in the bathroom." A beat of silence. "The faucet. Probably nothing major, but, peace of mind." A pause. I could practically hear him wrestling with his better judgment. "I can be there in about an hour," he said finally. I hung up, a slow smile spreading across my face. This time, I wasn't letting him off the hook. When Ethan arrived, the nervousness was dialed up to 11. He tried for that calm, professional demeanor, but the tension in his shoulders, the way he avoided my eyes as I led him upstairs, screamed otherwise. The faucet issue was a joke, a loose handle at best, but we both knew it wasn't plumbing that brought him back. As he fiddled with the faucet, I stood close, the silence thick, charged. My skin tingled. He was more focused now, head down, eyes glued to the task, but the air vibrated with his awareness of me, the space shrinking between us with every breath. "Ethan," I said softly, stepping closer, "I've been thinking about you." He froze, hand tightening around the faucet, knuckles white, didn't look up, but his breathing hitched. "You have?" His voice was cautious, testing the waters. "Haven't been able to stop thinking about last time," I continued, my voice low, intimate. "You seemed interested, but you held back. Why was that?" Silence. His hands kept working, but the conflict was etched in his posture. "It's just, I'm a professional," he said finally, barely a whisper. "Wouldn't be right." "Wouldn't it?" I asked, closing the gap, practically breathing down his neck. "Who decides what's right or wrong, Ethan? We're both adults, and we both know there's something here, something between us. You feel it, don't you?" He finally looked up, jaw clenched, eyes locked with mine, that same internal war raging within him. He was fighting it, so hard, clinging to professionalism, to distance. But the tension was a taut wire, stretched to breaking point. I let my hand drift, brushing his chest, feeling his heart hammer against my fingertips. His breath hitched again. For a split second, I thought he might retreat, back away. But then, without warning, he reached out, hand gripping my arm, pulling me close. Not rough, but firm. His face inches from mine, breath hot on my skin. "Lenore," he breathed, voice low and raw. "This isn't a game." "Never said it was," I replied, a slow smile curving my lips. No turning back now. His hand still on my arm, a tight, hesitant grip, like he was afraid to let go, afraid of what he might do if he did. Something raw, unguarded in his eyes now, no more nervous politeness, just raw want. I leaned in, my lips hovering, teasing. His grip tightened, pulling me closer, then pushing me away all at once. For a fleeting moment, I wondered if he'd break, if he'd bolt again. But then his breathing quickened, and I knew he was feeling it too, the pull, the inevitable. "Sometimes," I whispered, voice barely audible, heavy with promise, "you just have to let go." Ethan hesitated for another beat, suspended in indecision. Then something snapped. He surged forward, pulling me against him, his mouth crashing onto mine. Not gentle, not tentative. This kiss was a dam breaking, a torrent of pent-up desire. His lips moved against mine with an urgency that sent a shiver down my spine, his hands gripping my waist, holding on for dear life. I kissed him back, arms wrapping around his neck, pulling him closer. The heat building, consuming. The bathroom, the faucet, the leak. Everything faded, swallowed by the intensity of his touch. His hand slid down to my hips and I gasped, head falling back, surrendering to the moment. Intoxicating, this young man, this raw energy, seeing me in a way no one had in years. More than just physical, a connection deeper, unexpected, undeniable. We stumbled out of the bathroom, the bedroom a easy destination. The air crackled, a live wire of unspoken desires finally finding release. As we fell onto the bed, tangled in sheets, a smile touched my lips. Alive. More alive than I had felt in, I couldn't remember when. "I've never done anything like this," Ethan murmured, voice husky, tracing lazy circles on my arm. "Neither have I admitted, my voice just as soft. He turned, searching my face, vulnerability in his eyes. "I shouldn't have," he said, shaking his head slightly. "But I don't regret it." I placed my hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat beneath my fingertips. "Neither do I." Silence settled, comfortable, heavy with unspoken weight. We lay there, lost in the aftermath. Eventually, Ethan sat up, glancing at the clock. "I should go," he said, reluctance in his voice mirroring my own. "Been here longer than I planned." "You don't have to," I said, though I knew he couldn't stay. He hesitated, looking at me like he wanted to, then shook his head. "Don't want this to be awkward," he said softly, firmly. "Don't want you to think I was just, I smiled, understanding. "I don't," I said, sitting up beside him. "You're a good man, Ethan. We both needed this. Glad it happened. But I'm not expecting anything more than this." Relief flickered across his face, tinged with confusion. "So you're really okay with everything? No weird feelings or anything?" I laughed softly. "No weird feelings, just one of those moments. No strings, no pressure." He nodded slowly, still processing. "Okay," he said after a long pause. "Guess I'll see you around. Maybe." "Maybe," I teased. "If my sink breaks again, you'll be the first call." That made him smile. He stood, slinging his tool bag over his shoulder. At the door, he turned back one last time. "Eleanor," he said, voice soft, sincere. "I don't regret it. Just want you to know that." I smiled, watching him go. "Neither do I." And then he was gone. In the days that followed, Ethan was a constant hum in my thoughts. Every time I passed the sink, his image flashed in my mind. The way he looked at me, the tremor in his hands, the heat of his kiss, the press of his body against mine, that hesitation before he finally gave in. It had been so long since I'd felt anything. Didn't expect another call. Figured he'd chalked it up to a lapse in judgment, a one-off. Maybe he was right. Maybe it shouldn't have happened, but I didn't regret a single second. Still, wasn't sure if I'd see him again. Wasn't even sure if I wanted to. Rational part of me screamed danger. Age gap, power dynamic, societal judgment, playing with fire. But the part of me that had felt so vibrantly alive in his arms didn't give a damn about logic. Knew, deep down, if he called, I wouldn't say no. Then, one afternoon, a week after he'd left, the phone rang. His name flashed on the screen, and my heart did that ridiculous teenage skip again. Hadn't expected it, hadn't even hoped for it, but there it was. Ethan. "Hey," his voice tentative, cautious, like he was testing the water. "Just wanted to check on the faucet, make sure everything's still working fine." Pause. Uncertainty thick in his voice. Trying to sell it as a professional call. We both knew better. "Faucet's fine," I replied, letting my voice drop a notch, letting him know I wasn't talking about plumbing. "But there's another issue you might be able to help me with." Another pause, heard his breath catch on the other end. Hesitation, then decision. "I'll be there in an hour," he whispered, like he wasn't quite sure of the decision he'd just made, but drawn in anyway. Hung up, Anticipation flooding me, a rush of nervous energy and raw desire, foolish, reckless, not like me at all. But with Ethan, those carefully constructed walls crumbled. Spent the next hour pacing, straightening things that didn't need straightening, trying to quell the rising tide of excitement. When he arrived, that same electricity crackled, hesitant in the doorway but drawn in. Eyes met mine, uncertainty still there, but something else too, darker, more intense. He stepped inside, the air thickening. Pretense of the bathroom faucet, leading him upstairs, both knowing the charade. Alone in the bathroom, the air shifted. Ethan tried to focus on the faucet, but his fingers trembled. Nervous. Me too. Nervous and desperate. Stepped closer, hand on his shoulder, warmth of his skin through the shirt. He froze, rigid. Didn't move, didn't breathe. Then slowly he turned, conflict in his eyes. "Ethan," I whispered, soft, insistent. "You don't have to pretend anymore." Breath hitched. For a beat, thought he'd pull away, leave. But then something shifted. Resolve broke. Defenses crumbled. Without a word, he pulled me in, lips crashing against mine, a force that stole my breath. Different this time. No hesitation, no second guessing. Ethan unleashed. Hands roamed, urgent, reverent, a need mirroring my own. In those moments, nothing else existed. Alive. More alive than years. Years melted away. No longer just a 60-year-old woman, someone's ex-wife. Just a woman, capable of feeling, desiring, living. Ethan's touch, tender and demanding, control and release. Kisses hungry, surprising, exploring, passion that made my heart race. Kissed him back, equal fervor, pulling him closer, losing myself in the moment. Bathroom too small, too confining. Without breaking the kiss, Ethan lifted me, carried me to the bedroom, boundaries dissolving completely. Hours blurred, sensation and emotion. World outside vanished. Desire we'd fought so hard to ignore, finally unleashed. Ethan's hands, reverence and need matching my own. No shame, no guilt, just heat, shared understanding. Hands tender, demanding, a mix of control and surrender. Kisses hungry, surprising, passion that made my heart race. Kissed him back, equal fervor, pulling him closer, losing myself in the intensity. Afterward, tangled in sheets, body spent, silence comforting. Ethan's breath on my neck, slow, steady, fingers tracing patterns on my skin, eyes closed, savoring warmth, weight of his presence. No words needed. Both knew it was more than fleeting passion, deeper, unexpected, undeniable. First time in years, truly seen. Not 60, not ex-wife, just me, a woman still capable. But reality crept back. Age difference, stark. In the heat, irrelevant, now, a chasm. Glanced at Ethan, sleeping peacefully. Content. How long would it last? Regret loom? Fear pierced me, unplanned, more than attraction. Attached, more than intended. Sat up, blanket around me, stared out the window, last light fading. Golden glow to darkness, couldn't last. Rational me knew, temporary, fleeting, but another part wanted it to last. Wanted Ethan to stay. Terrifying. Days that followed, longing and uncertainty. Ethan and I still seeing each other but changed. Kindness, attentiveness still there, but distance. Unspoken tension, unintentional maybe. Ethan trying to hold on, but conflict in his eyes. Young, whole life ahead. Regret dawning? Age difference, once thrilling taboo, now a shadow. Public glances, curious, judgmental. Didn't matter how young I felt with Ethan. How alive? Outside world saw unnatural, wrong. Weight of judgment, crushing. One evening, couch, Ethan took my hand, warm, comforting, but in his eyes, heart sank. Been thinking, he said, hesitant. About us. Lump in my throat, nodded. Complicated, Eleanor, he said, soft, firm. Don't regret anything, but don't know how to make this work. Knew what he meant. Dreaded conversation, inevitable. Crossed a line, struggling to find footing. Don't explain, I said, voice calm, heart racing. I know. Ethan looked at me, sadness in his eyes. Don't want to hurt you, Eleanor, but can't keep pretending this is normal. Words punched me. Forced composure. Knew it was coming. Shaky ground couldn't last forever. Knowing didn't soften the blow. After that, unraveling began. Still saw each other, easy intimacy gone, awkwardness unshakable. Ethan pulling away bit by bit, trying not to. Afraid, losing him, back to before. Quiet loneliness unbearable now. One evening, Alone, living room, staring at phone, ringing it to will it to ring. Ethan promised to come by. Hours passed. Silence, anxiety gnawing in my chest. Pulling away. How to stop it? Phone buzzed. Text from Ethan. Sorry, can't make it tonight. Need time to think. Stared at message. Heart sank. Knew it was coming. Black and white reality. No response. Didn't know how. Sat in the dark. Silence pressing in. Thrill gone. Hollow emptiness. Just a fling? Make me feel alive? More than that now. Let myself care. Paying the price. Week passed. No call from Ethan. Tried to keep busy. Tasks that meant nothing. Emptiness followed. Unshakable feeling. Ending. Slipping away. Nothing I could do. One evening, sunset. Phone rang. Ethan. Can I come over? Quiet, hesitant voice. Of course, I replied. Knew what was coming. He arrived. Tension in the air. Tired. Conflict etched on his face. Living room. Silence heavy. Waited for him to speak. Struggling. Eleanor, he began. Soft voice. Been doing a lot of thinking. Nodded. Heart pounding. Care about you, he continued. Eyes locking with mine. More than I ever thought I would. But can't keep doing this. Can't pretend age difference doesn't matter. Can't pretend it's not complicated. Tears pricked my eyes. Forced them back. Composed. Knew it was coming. I understand. Voice barely a whisper. Ethan looked at me, regret in his expression. Don't want to hurt you, Eleanor, but best if we end this now, before it gets more complicated. Nodded. No words. Knew it was coming. Didn't make it easier. Ethan reached for my hand. Gentle squeeze. Solace in a moment offering none. Touch warm, familiar, distant, slipping away. I'm sorry, he whispered, voice thick. Never meant for it to get this far, but don't know how to make this work. Looked at him, heart breaking quietly. Right. Crossed a line. Exhilarating then. Reality sinking in. Age, secrecy, uncertainty. Too much, we both knew. Don't regret anything, I said softly, voice steady, lump in throat. Don't want you to think that. Ethan's eyes softened. Hesitation flicker, reconsidering, then gone. Don't either, whisper. But can't keep pretending it's something it's not. Nodded, nothing more to say. Shared something real, beautiful, not meant to last. Hardest part, accepting that. Some things, no matter how powerful, not forever. Silence. Hand in hand, holding on to last shred, knowing it was slipping. Finally, Ethan stood, slow movements, processing, glanced around the room, committing to memory, looked back at me. Take care of yourself, Eleanor. Quiet voice. You too, Ethan, I replied, voice calm, heavy with unspoken words. Lingered a moment, then, door. Watched him go, heart aching. Door closed softly, gone. House impossibly quiet, silence pressing in. Sat there, long time, door, trying to make sense. Thrill, connection, passion, real, over. Stood, body heavy, exhaustion. Bedroom, bed too big, too empty. Lay in the dark, mistake, fallen too far. Felt too much, sadness washing over. Wouldn't change it. Shared with Ethan, awakened something. Reminder of desire, passion, living. Grateful for that. Days slow motion. Quiet routines returned. Familiar patterns. Empty spaces. Something changed. Ethan gone, spark still flickered. Refused to die. Thinking of him often. Wondering. Longing. Ending things. Right decision. Longing lingered. Quiet ache. Couldn't shake. Tried to distract myself. Small tasks, cleaning, bookshelves, walks, memories of Ethan lingered, corners of mind, teasing, possibility of what could have been. Photo albums, picture of myself years ago, young, vibrant, life. Stared, reconcile photo with now, years fitting mold, good wife, mother, responsible adult, lost part of myself. Ethan reminded me of that part. Adventure, connection, more than motions. Relationship ended, grateful, gave me something I needed. Reminder I was alive, capable of feeling. Weeks to months. Ache of missing Ethan fading slowly, not gone completely. Moments. Thinking of him. Familiar tug of longing, less frequent. Emptiness filling with acceptance. New relationship temporary reprieve. Brief, intense connection. Brought me back to myself. Didn't last. Served purpose. Changed. felt it. Way I carried myself. Approached days, quiet loneliness, no longer suffocating, reclaimed space, made it my own, reconnecting with friends, book club, painting, afternoons, color, creativity, peace, unfelt in years, memory of Ethan, quiet corner of heart, didn't dwell, didn't push away, part of my story now. Chapter shaped who I was becoming. One evening, months later, back porch, wine, sunset, pink gold sky, cool, crisp air, autumn's promise. Sitting there, realized something. Content. Quiet, solitary life. Content with knowing I had lived. Allowed myself to feel, even if it hadn't lasted. Ethan, unexpected entry, unexpected exit. Marquee left remained. Reminded me life not prescribed path. Greatest experiences, unexpected places. Sip of wine, smile. Future uncertain. Didn't know what lay ahead. For first time in long time, not afraid. Rediscovered part of myself. Thought lost forever. Enough. Sun dipped below horizon. Stood inside. House warm. Welcoming. No longer cold. Empty. Mine now. Reflection of who I was becoming. Closed door. Quiet hope. Whatever came next, knew I could face it. Faced hardest part already. Letting go.